Hello, hello. This is Marlon Weems, the journeyman, and I am the publisher of a newsletter that explores the intersection of politics, um, the economy, anti-Black racism, all of which tend to overlap. And I am waiting for my guest, the Conscious Lee. Hopefully, he has not gotten himself hung up and will be able to join us shortly. But in the meantime, welcome. And as my wife tells me, I'm a talker, so I should be able to hopefully fill in should he not be able to make an appearance. So I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Leslie Joy Allen, welcome. Good to see you. By the way, Leslie Joy, I got a chance to just I haven't finished it yet, but your latest piece, I was checking it out. So, you know, some good reading so far. I should say, just a little bit of housekeeping. I, if you're not a subscriber, obviously, I would love for you to subscribe. If you're interested in becoming a paid subscriber, through the end of the month, it's a little bit easier in terms of the price is reduced by 20%. So hopefully, that if you're of a mind to support free and independent journalism, hopefully that's the thing that may push you over the edge. Aside from my wonderful personality, so um, hopefully Mr. Lee will join in, and if not, what we might do is I actually have a piece that once I'm done here, I'm going to put the finishing touches on, and it's well, I guess it is political in a sense, but um, the name of the person who shall go unnamed is not really mentioned, and it's one of the things that's kind of been bugging me lately, and it's the discussion of expertise and who has it and who doesn't. And I think if you've been watching television in the last 100 days, we are seeing plenty of an abundance of a lack of expertise, I think is fair to say. Welcome, Arturo. Good to see you. Carol Q. Good to see you. A lot of folks jumping in here. I hope it's because of me and because I'm the only one here so far. So um, hopefully the Conscious Lee will join in. If he's caught hung up, we will reschedule and have him join us. I should say that just to give you a heads up, next week I believe it's Tuesday, and I'm not quite sure of the time, noon I think, but next Tuesday. Um, Danielle Moody will join me. And then late in the week on Friday, and I'll put out information on this late on Friday. Um, I'll have actually a very special guest that I'm really excited about. Um, Her name is Dr. Daryl Fairweather. And Dr. Fairweather is the chief economist for Redfin, the real estate corporation. Um, I know all over my neighborhood there are signs for Redfin, and so that is one that it took me a while to put together, but I am really excited to speak with her. And in the next, over the next several days, I'll be posting videos just so you can get an idea of who she is. And I mean, what a resume. She is, aside from being the chief economist for Redfin, she's also on an advisory board that advises the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. I believe it's Dallas, yeah. And so, um, I'm pretty proud of getting that one lined up. So that kind of gives me an opportunity to talk about something that I guess from my former life. I started off as a mortgage-backed security salesman, so I'm pretty stoked about that. And subscribers, I'll probably be dropping something in the chat room, maybe if not today, maybe Monday, since she's not with us until next Friday. But just to kind of give you an opportunity to, um, you know, throw in a few questions, some areas that you want to make sure that we talk about when she's on. And then, of course, like I said, Tuesday, Miss Moody will be on, and she's been with me once before, and I mean, again, just you know, a really sharp lady, and I guess I consider myself lucky to be able to pull her on a stream as well. So, um, in the meantime, why don't we do? Oh, I was gonna say, I have this piece that's gonna drop, and it sometimes I have, and I don't know if those of you who write a lot are like this, but I have in my drafts literally, um, well, more than a few drafts of stories that I have started or ideas that don't end up becoming stories. And every once in a while, I'll just go back and go, when I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do next, I just kind of go back and look. And I ran, I ran across this situation, and I'll tell you about it. So, those of you that follow me know that my wife has a business that I help out on, and it is we call it Solstice Botanicals, and y'all are like this. It's spelled Soulstice, so Solstice. You get it? Um, and it is a school bus that um, I wish I could take credit for doing this work, but it is converted into a mobile greenhouse. And so, it's full of all kinds of plants and, tropical house plants. That's kind of the area that we're in, right? And so we do these little pop up events around, vendor markets, that kind of thing. And there was an incident that happened. It's been several months ago, and when it occurred, I actually started writing it down. And there was there was another vendor that had this really cool little. It's like a Japanese van. I think Subaru makes it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who it is. And being that it's Japanese, and I mean it's really small. It's like a fourth of the size of our school bus. And this lady has basically converted it, and she fills it up with flowers, and she sells all kind of floral arrangements and stuff. And so it's really interesting because you'll see these couples at these vendor fairs, and the women are looking at the floral arrangements, and the guys are looking at the vehicle and trying to figure it out, and so on. And so there was a situation where um, this guy and a woman walk up, and the woman, of course, gravitates to the flowers, and the guy starts analyzing this vehicle, and everything he's saying about it is wrong. But he sounded like an expert, like he knew what he was talking about. He did not. And at some point, because it's Japanese, the steering wheel is on the opposite side. And he says, and he kind of, it's almost like it pissed him off. And he says, I don't know why they put these steering wheels over here instead of doing it like our cars, because we're the ones that invented the automobile, which is not true. So I think because of Henry Ford basically being the person who mastered mass production of automobiles, a lot of people think he invented the automobile. And so that's kind of where my story starts, just talking about and it seems to me like since we've gotten the availability of, everybody's got a computer in their pocket now. And so essentially everybody thinks they're an expert, even if they're not one. And I try to stay in my lane, but look, I'm guilty as anybody else. So that's kind of what my next piece is about. And I talk about how uh, there's a sort of viral thing going on social media. I've seen it on Instagram, and I've seen it on TikTok, and it is a back and forth. between Mark Lamont Hill, if you know who he is, and I want to say it's on the Joe Budden podcast, and he and this guy are going back. It's another one of the guys that's like a regular on the podcast, I guess. I don't really watch it, but I mean, you can't miss this on social media. And these guys are going back and forth over whether or not the earth is flat. And it's really it's kind of sad because I mean, Mark Lamont Hill is a pretty smart guy. And the other person that's involved, he just doesn't know what he's talking. Well, I run into this a lot with people, be it talking about the flat earth, talking about the 2020 election, any of these issues that are not really issues, but they believe them anyway. And it's almost, I tell my wife, it's kind of like throwing water on that witch in The Wizard of Oz when you ask them for like proof, evidence, any of those things. It's like, like a silver bullet on a werewolf. They can't, they cannot handle it. And so it, it's just kind of a funny thing that's going on. So I guess the last week or so, I have been tired of really just talking about what Trump did yesterday or 5 minutes ago, or, and I'm just looking for some other little things to sort of discuss that maybe are relevant, but not that. So that's kind of what I've been up to the last week or so. But anyway, what do you guys want to talk about? It looks like Mr. Lee is not going to make it with us unless he pops in. Ask me anything within reason, please. I saw a lengthy Marge KG says, I'm sorry, KJ says that she's also watching Nicole on MSNBC and she's been having CEOs on and they're blaming China. Um, you know what? I have to be honest. I'm watching a whole lot less MSNBC these days. Ever since really January 20th, my television usage, I mean, it's still on. I mean, like right now, I have a Fire Stick, so I can watch Bloomberg television for free, really, through I guess it's through Amazon. And so Bloomberg, you can critique all of these guys because they all have a master that somewhat governs what they talk about. But I find Bloomberg to be the most um, sort of legit if you're trying to keep up with financial and economic stuff. That's what I tend to do. Um, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through because I want to make sure if anyone has a question or Carol Q. I just don't understand how the how the Earth can even be flat. Um, you know, I mean, and I talk about this in my latest piece, Carol, about oh my gosh, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. Um, I have my son and daughter that live with us or that are in college. I was married before, so I've got two adult, I mean, like full grown adult sons in their 30s. The oldest one is a welder. He didn't go the college route. He went the apprenticeship route, and he does well for himself. And so, about 4 years ago, this is really before he kind of kind of got himself together. He was an apprentice, but we talk on the phone all the time. He's still in Arkansas, or was at the time, and he just out of nowhere said something. I don't even remember how it came up about the Earth being flat, and I thought he was kidding. I really did, and he wasn't, and we got into it, and he had he had his source, and it was basically just a guy on YouTube, and I'm like, dude, no, and so yeah, it blew up. I talk about it in this piece because I think it's just kind of relevant, and what's funny about it is now 5 years later, he's got his own kids, and he's actually, well, he may not still be there, but he, for the last 5 months maybe, has been in Alaska, doing work either military or for more likely for some of the oil companies up there. He's even doing stuff. They've got him on occasion. He's been in the Arctic Circle. So I mean, he's doing some crazy stuff. And so he sends me photos, and I actually put some of these photos in the piece that I'm going to drop, just in an hour or so. And one day he sends me this little short video where I guess he walks out to go to work, and he's out in the wilderness. In fact, um, he when he's not in the Arctic Circle, at least the last time I spoke to him, he was in Wasilla, um, Alaska, which, if I'm not mistaken, is where Sarah Palin was the mayor, I think, way back when. And so he sends me this video, and it's like, I don't know, 4 or 5, is it moose or mooses? I'm not sure, but big, you know, giant moose, and they're snooping around his vehicle and looking curious, and so he sends me that kind of stuff. But he also sends me these beautiful shots of the northern lights, aurora borealis. And what's funny about that is, from what I understand, and I, just checked it out to be sure, the aurora borealis, that can't happen unless the earth is round, because of the way the magnetic fields work and all of that. But you know what? I ain't even throwing it in his face because I don't want to fight about it again. So it's just one of those things, you just let it go, because I like talking to my son, and there's no point in stirring up trouble. But yeah, there are a lot of people that believe it, and you can't tell them otherwise. I'm not one of them. And let's see what else we got. Lawrence is believing the Earth is flat. Uh, d- make you the brightest person in the room, especially when you're the only one holding on to that belief. Um, hmm, I gotta say, Lawrence, you're getting pretty philosophical on me. Uh, Lawrence says, "Is I guess this is kind of like a tree falling in the woods. Does anybody know? Does anybody hear it?" That is one of those philosophical questions I was never able to answer. It's important to meet people where they are, is what Polly Walker Blakemore says. And I would say, Polly, it depends on where they are. If they're in Crazy Town, I'm not going to meet them there. But I feel you. I hear what you're saying. And that's kind of why, even though I have, I think, sufficient information that tells me my kid is really not right about the earth, I'm gonna let him live. And you know what? He may have solved this question for himself, because I can't imagine um that he's up there, and given where he is, dude's gotta know the earth is round. He's in the Arctic Circle, you know? So it's yeah, I hear you. And Polly says the idea is to respect the path someone's on. Again, I would say, if you see someone going down the wrong path and you care anything about them, maybe you should try to get them back on the right path. But believing in the flat earth isn't probably the worst thing a person could do or think. So, like I said, I made the decision to enjoy his photos of the aurora borealis without throwing science in his face. But anyway, I mean, that's kind of what I've been up to. I see that we have a new pope, and I told my wife, when the white smoke came out, I said to her, it's either going to be a black pope or an American, but I'm scared to bet on black in this case. So looks like we have an American pope. Does anybody know who it is? I haven't had a chance to look. I've just been busy with other stuff, but I know it's an American, but not really sure who the guy is or what is. I know, knowing that he's American, I guess it should be pretty easy to figure out what his politics are, I would guess. But I haven't had a chance to do it. Let's see, what else do we have? And by the way, folks, thanks for showing up And and I love the comments. One of the things that I've been saying to Substack, or I have been thinking about, I haven't actually posed this to them, is there should be a way that after a live stream is over, maybe you get a text or an email with sort of a readout of the comments. That would be super helpful to be able, because there's just like a little space here. Because I'm on a phone. I mean, I could set it up, um, for a laptop, but I don't really have a great laptop to use. So the phone works a lot better for me until I get enough paid subscribers to be able to get like, and not even, I'm not even talking about an expensive laptop. I would get a refurbished, like, MacBook Air. That's all I really need. I don't need a huge hard drive space because I use the cloud in two or three places. So I'm good there. Anyway, what else do we have here? Um, Jane, hopefully I'm saying this right. Jane Carr. Oh, she's complimenting me. I don't know why I didn't see that sooner. I like that, MW, helping folks see the path of reality if you care about someone. And that is where I am at. Um, and, I used to be a whole lot more caustic with my advice than I am now. Maybe that's, old age, you get a little mellow. But when this event happened with my son, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, I made the mistake of reacting to him like, "Boy, you stupid." I mean, because and now I realize there's probably a better way to, convince somebody than tell them they're dumb? So Barbara Shields says she's wondering what I think we should expect over the next few months. Um everything I read here says a catastrophic, collapse in trade is coming. But then the markets basically behave. Okay, so she's saying the markets seem to be behaving as if nothing's happening. Okay, I'll tell you what that's all about. So, um, short of just a calamity, like when these tariffs were first announced, and everybody was shocked. Nobody, people were thinking 10%, 20%. Nobody's thinking 100 and whatever. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody was thinking every country on the planet was going to get tagged with a tariff. So, what you saw there was essentially a crash, right? Um, Comparable to when people realized, oh crap, this this is really going to be bad, and the markets were off thousands of points. Well, eventually the market will try to find a bottom somewhere. And one of these days, I'm going to write about this. It gets into some technical stuff, and I've been wanting to talk about it and just hadn't done it. Um, there are a lot of ways to look at market behavior. There are generally two schools of thought. One is um, what we call technical analysis, and that is more based on math, if you will, and it gets kind of hairy. But the other side of it is fundamental analysis, which really only looks at um, empirical data, information, unemployment, market conditions, just facts and data like that. And they sometimes move in tandem, but they're different motivations, if you will, for why people might do a trade. And what I'm talking about is, pardon me, guys, I have to be honest, the pollen situation here is awful. So that's what's going on with me. Um, but anyway, eh, so so on a trading desk, you may have one, and when I say that, I'm talking about like big global firms. They may have a group that operates using quantitative theory, and they're just doing stuff with algorithms, and they don't care what the Fed says, what any of it, they're not even thinking about that, right? And then you have other groups that maybe they are running a $1 billion portfolio that's based solely on the S&P 500. So they own every single thing in the S&P 500. They're weighted exactly like the S&P is weighted. So what they're trying to do is just replicate the performance of the S&P. Okay. So all that to say, when you see the market, now I'm going to tell you what's going on today, and all it is Trump goosing the market. That's all it is. I mean, think about it. He comes out at noon with this announcement that's, okay, I guess it's good. Maybe we save, net our tariff between us and the UK. Maybe it's 3% better than it was. But is that really something for the president to sit up and talk about for an hour? And he's just saying these things, and I'm looking at the market, and I'm not even listening to him because I know, first of all, he's probably not telling the truth. I mean, that you can bet on. But I'm looking at the market over here, and I'm just looking at this guy, and he's saying I got the closed caption on, so I don't have to hear his voice because it messes with me. And so, but he's saying these things that he knows are going to stimulate the market positively. And so when he started talking, I think maybe the market was up a couple of 100 points. And when he got done talking, it was up 500 points. And who the hell knows what Eric and Don Jr. are doing in the background, because Bitcoin at the same time broke 100,000. So, this is stuff that used to be, not that presidents did not know they were affecting the market when they spoke, but this is like, it's just something no one's ever seen a president behave this way and stay out of jail. so so it's just a whole different story. And then as we know, these guys are in the background, they're making deals, they're doing all kinds of stuff that is just really makes the mafia look like a bunch of, um, penny ante criminals. I mean, I just have not seen this kind of thing before. So, it's that's what's going on. So when you see, now there's that, and then markets don't go straight up and down anyway. Okay. So markets operate on sentiment and volume, and what you have right now is a whole lot of hope, a whole lot of hope. And the market is not really, in my opinion, and to the question that Barbara sort of raised, the market is not. The market's hoping that sometime in the 90 days, which I don't even know how much time we got left, but this pause that we have, they're hoping a whole bunch of deals happen, and y'all, I'm here to tell you, they're not. It's impossible. I mean, a real, like something with China, where we're supposed to be meeting with China. I don't know, Saturday, I guess, right? Well, these guys are trying to negotiate with China, and I mean the Treasury Secretary and his team. And over in the background, you got Trump saying, "I'm not going to lower these tariffs." Well, that's not helping. Okay, so there is no possibility that there is going to be a tariff deal between the U.S. and China in the next couple of weeks. I mean, it's impossible. In the best circumstance, these are things that sometimes take years to do. And not for nothing, folks can say what they want. China's in the driver's seat. Look at it this way: China has got the rest of the world to trade with. Everything we need from China, we can't get nowhere else. Who's going to make all these toys for Christmas? Not us. Who's got all the rare earth minerals? China. Who's number one in manufacturing, in shipbuilding? China, China. Okay. Number one in drones, China. I'm telling you. So we have, for better or worse, put a person in office, I'm going to say worse, who does not deal in reality. And he's operating in some sort of a fantasy bubble where he's in charge of everything, and he's got all these people around him that reinforce the belief that he's the best shit since sliced bread, and he's a genius and he's a deal maker. And I challenge anybody to show me a half dozen deals this guy has done that did not end in bankruptcy, okay, or a massive lawsuit. So that's it's a recipe for disaster. And I'm not trying to, scare anybody. I'm just saying that when the reality of these tariffs start coming home, and they're starting to, you look at these ports. The other day I was in Food Lion and they didn't have any cottage cheese. Like just no cottage cheese, no rotisserie chickens, neither did Walmart. So I'm telling you, you're going to start just seeing things because other countries are making deals without us. And their people aren't like crazy. Okay. And so I was listening to a woman and I did not catch her name. This was just on Bloomberg. They're just interviewing. They're starting to realize, yeah, you know what? Amazon's going to be okay. Walmart's going to be okay. They can eat that tariff if they want. They can pass it on, whatever they want to do. But the next tier and the next tier of businesses, that's the economy, right? Those businesses, and the woman that I saw on Bloomberg had a company that made handbags, and all of her products are made in China. And she was just saying, look, if I theoretically were able to bring all of my manufacturing to the United States, my handbags would cost 3 times what they cost. And I got no customers for that. Okay. It's just they're trying to do something that's impossible. We cannot make everything that we want to buy here. We just can't. We don't have the people. And oh, by the way, the folks who could do that work, we're trying to get rid of them. So it's stupid in every direction that you can think of. So anyway, I guess I should get off my soapbox, but it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. So I don't know if I totally addressed the question. So John H says, John H, man, I love you. You're faithful, man. You show up for all my stuff. I really appreciate you. As long as Trump is president, should you buy? Oh, you're being funny. Should I buy stock in McDonald's? Well, I tell you what, man, we all may be eating McDonald's before it's all over because I'm telling you, it's coming. It is coming, and at some point, the way these markets work, one day you will wake up and it'll be down 1,000 points just because the reality will hit, sort of writ large, and everybody will say, "Oh crap." Um, and there's usually going to be a catalyst. It might be Memorial Day weekend, where you get people that are like, "Okay, we got this long weekend. Do I really want to be owning anything going into a 3-day weekend?" And all of a sudden, you'll start seeing selling. I mean, I'm not predicting. That's just kind of the way it happens. Okay, so let's see. No, John, I was not being glib. I'm serious. John says if food prices get too high, people have no choice but to use McDonald's. No, no joke, no joke. It's it's sad, but that's kind of where we're at. Um, but start noticing where you go to the store and they just stop having stuff. Back to school. When does that start? July, maybe not even July. I guess right about now, right? I mean, I would imagine that companies are trying to inventory in anticipation of back to school shopping, which I would imagine starts what halfway through June, something like that. Fortunately, My at least one of my kids is gonna be out of school. My daughter graduates, Saturday. Yay! So, yeah, she graduates Saturday. My son is at home. He's gonna be a sophomore in the fall at, NC State, and so, we gotta figure out what she's gonna do next, but she's got a lot of opportunity, I think. But, what a time to be coming out of college with just I think people don't give enough, um, attention, don't pay enough attention to what it means, to what uncertainty means just in the economy, where you just don't know what you should be planning for because you don't know what the government's going to do. You don't know if these guys get over there Saturday and it's not going to happen. But what if China gave up the store and Trump said, no, I don't think so? He could do it. He can. He's done that kind of thing. No, I don't think so. I need more. How do you prepare for that? The Fed was out yesterday. They always, they come out and tell whether they're going to raise rates or do nothing or lower rates, whatever it may be. And essentially, that's what Jerome Powell was saying. He was like, we're not going to be in a rush to lower interest rates because we don't know if we may have an instance where unemployment increases, but because of tariffs, inflation might increase too. So which thing do you do? Do you raise interest rates? You sure can't lower them if you've got inflation. So that's how you end up with stagflation. So this is this is just the strangest situation because the economy's pretty good. And so that is what makes this so untenable is that we've got a situation where there's nothing wrong with the economy. We just got bad managers in the White House that it's a combination of crazy, don't know what they're doing. Um, Other people who know they're doing the wrong thing and won't say nothing, like the Treasury Secretary. This guy, what a disappointment. First of all, he is the um, snobbish, snobbiest guy I've ever seen in that role. I've seen a few. I thought Larry Summers was kind of, Larry Summers is he's he doesn't suffer fools, as they say. But he's also, he's Harvard. So you can imagine if you've ever paid any attention to him. I've written about him before. I actually, during COVID, I actually wrote a piece and I don't remember the exact title, but it was something like Larry Summers is a brilliant jerk because he is. He's very smart. He's very intelligent. But at the time, he didn't want anybody to get COVID money. He was saying it was going to be the cause of inflation. And we did get inflation. But there's an argument that while COVID money may have caused a little inflation, the $10 trillion that the Fed gave banks probably had something to do with it too. And they don't like to talk about that part of that side of the ledger. Okay. So, um, yeah, but this Besant guy, he doesn't handle himself well. I watched him a little bit yesterday in front of the House. I forget. I think it was the Finance Committee, and he and um, they did not gel. And he's just the kind of guy that he comes off like, he just doesn't feel like he should have to do all this talking to people and stuff and explaining himself and what he's doing. He just comes off like a real, um, just an asshole. I don't know any other way to say it. Okay, so you've got all these people, they're all billionaires. They can't possibly know how it feels to be in the position, where we are, where one false move and shoot, you might be out on the street. You just don't know. And so you don't have anybody, in my view, that has the um, oh, that can just empathize with that. They're just saying, oh, we're going to give you a tax cut. Well, you know what? Let's just break it down. Okay. The last, the, the Tax and Jobs Cut Act is in effect right now. You're not getting like a new tax cut. It's just, you're not, they don't want this to stop, this gravy train, right? They don't want it to stop. Um, I promise, John, I will answer that question just a second. So they don't want to see this stop because and I'll repost some of my old stuff that really goes into it. But when you add up all of the between the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and then a couple of other things, and then extending the Tax and Jobs Cut Act, you hear them saying the $5 trillion price tag. That's just the Tax and Jobs Cut Act. All of those things that I mentioned together, we're talking about a $9 trillion that is unpaid for. Now, when they started with tariffs, Bissett was all over TV saying the tariffs that was going to pay for the tax cut. Well, not if you keep unwinding the tariffs. I mean, just think about it. In the last month, how much of where they originally started has he just said, okay, we're going to give you a pass on this. We're going to give you a pass on automobiles. Not going to tariff technology. So there's no way that the tariffs were ever going to cover the $5 trillion, let alone the $9 trillion, if they got their way. Okay. So to me, a lot of what we're seeing on television is so that you don't look behind the curtain and see this ginormous addition to the deficit. Now, what's interesting is earlier today, Rand Paul, of all people, was saying, I am not voting for this. Republicans have never, ever been for this kind of, deficit spending, which I don't know, maybe, I guess not. Maybe Reagan, not in terms of the numbers, but maybe the, sort of the hit to GDP. But anyway, not to get in the weeds too much. But a lot of these Republicans are starting to say, you know what? I got to run here in a minute. And I don't know how in the hell I'm going to explain this. We're supposed to be the austerity party, and and we're over here, cutting USAID and oh, did you guys see Bill Gates today? Bill Gates basically said it's a really bad look for the richest man in the world to be killing kids overseas. I mean, he's got money too, so he ain't worried about nothing. So he can say what needs to be said. But I was really surprised that he went at Elon Musk the way he did. Anyway, back to John's question. John, I'm going to tell you, I think it's the best thing Democrats are doing right now. John wants to know what I think of Bernie's Stop the Oligarchy tour. And I'll tell you what, I have not historically been, like a huge Bernie fan like some people are. I'm not against him. It's just not, um, I felt like had Bernie been the nominee, I'd have voted for him. I felt like Bernie tried to categorize I think America's biggest problem is racism. That's what I think, based on my personal experience and my observations. That is what I think, that is the cancer that is holding America back. I don't think it's DEI or any of this other crazy stuff. Bernie, I think he's changed somewhat over the years, but I think Bernie looks at class as opposed to racism as the big issue. I think it's some of both. But I think when you say class, Black people seem to be excluded. Just sort of like when you say working class, that's code for white. Although Black folks are in the working class. right? But, when you say soccer mom, that's code for white women, even though, black moms got kids playing soccer too. So that's my only criticism of Bernie historically. But I can tell you what, right now, he's on fire. And I think what I really respect that I just don't see Democrats do enough is this. He has embraced AOC as the future. And he he is what we're watching is a succession plan in process. And it's working and people are liking it. And I said this before, when you got two people with their politics filling up arenas in Idaho and Montana and places, Wyoming, and just places Democrats don't even bother to go. You got to know something is going on. Something's happening. Now, does that mean um, does that mean that AOC? Now, I'm going to tell you, don't y'all be surprised if AOC rises up here and is the next nominee. The only and I'll tell you why I say that. You know, conventional wisdom a year ago, before Kamala and before that whole our whole debacle, uh, was that Gavin Newsom was a shoe in, right? You could tell, but what he's doing of late, I don't know. He's making me where I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can trust you. If you're sitting up here, you got a podcast, and Charlie Kirk's the first guy you get on. What are you doing? Steve Bannon? What's happening? I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand this thing where these guys think these people are ever gonna come to their side of the. They're never gonna vote for a Gavin Newsom, no matter what he says or does, no matter how much he grins at these people and tries to say shit that they like. It's just not gonna happen. And Democrats, by and large, seem to have like a blind spot about this. I think what we should be doing is focusing on why did all these young people stay at home? Why young people that are, believe in the same issues we believe in, why did they stay at home? Why did they? Because they didn't believe us. Because they've seen all they know is, well, think about it. My daughter is graduating, like I said, in a couple of days. She doesn't know anything before Barack Obama and barely knows that. The first election that she was really plugged into was 2016. So all she's seen is the behavior of Democrats from that point to now. And, with a few exceptions, it hasn't been particularly impressive, you know? Um, people like her and my son, and they will vote for they're Democrats, right? They're not going to go to the other to the dark side, but they're looking at Democrats and they're puzzled by the behavior. The guys like Chuck Schumer, they don't dislike him, but they just don't know why everything seems so scripted, and they don't seem to really believe what they're saying, and so to me, that is what should be the focus and not, ooh, how can we go get those farmers that voted for Obama in, 2000 and whatever and get them to come back to us? They're gone, folks. They're not coming back. You lost your girlfriend. She's not coming back. And that to me that's it. Now, I'm not a consultant, so they're not gonna ask me. That's it. Leslie Joy just said they just don't. I mean, we literally have sat here with our kids or whatever, and Chuck Schumer comes on, and somebody say, "Watch him pull out his glasses." They know that he's. And look, I feel like I can keep it real here because I'm 67. I know I'm not going to be dunking basketballs anytime soon. It's stuff that I can't do that I did when I was 27, right? So I guess though, when you get that power and you get used to having a driver take you everywhere, and you got guys that are you got your security, you get a table in all the good restaurants. Believe me, I had an expense account when I worked on Wall Street, and I wasn't nobody, right? And I could go and drop $1,000 in a restaurant. Didn't nobody get mad. I knew I had that company card. I could just go, I could go out there and flex a little bit. And so when the idea of not being able to do that and not being you know, the smartest guy in the room or whatever, maybe that's it. But it's just a shame because they're not reading the room. And I'll just leave it there. Okay, so let's see. And I'm going to wrap it up here in a minute. I try to keep my talking under an hour, and I know y'all probably came here in anticipation of Mr. Lee, and I'll try to connect with him, and maybe we'll be able to reschedule something. I'm sure something came up, and he's in Texas. Hell, I don't know what the power situation is there. They might have lost their internet with the way those folks act down there. So okay, there's another group who voted for Gore the first time, and W ended up going in. Oh, that, yeah. Well, that's we. I've written about this. Like I said, I always I always put out a recording of all the live streams I do. Sometimes I'll allow the person, if I have a guest, I'll allow them to do it. But if I'm the one that does it, I'll also try to put links to some of the stories that I bring up, or news or whatever that's relevant, so you can kind of check it yourself. Um, and one of the things I have talked about a few times is Democrats seem to we're always on defense. We're always reacting to something. We are never, in my recollection, where you wake up and Democrats are on the attack. Now, of course, we have AOC, we've got um, Jasmine Crockett, and a few others. Okay, and I'm not saying no Democrats are doing anything. What I'm talking about is a coordinated strike where Republicans are like, "Oh shit, whoa, wait a minute, what the Democrats do? We never seen it. Can't tell you a time I've seen it." Now, on the other side, and I'm not even saying they're making a good case. I'm just saying they're just better organized. They are always all saying the same thing. It might be the craziest thing in the world, but they're all saying it. They are always on message, and you got to respect the game, even if it's a stupid, dishonest game. It's still these guys are on the money, and we just aren't. I don't know. I don't know who Democrats listen to. I really don't. Um, I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn, which I hardly ever go on. And I can't remember the group, but I wouldn't say who it is. And it was the first time someone had ever reached out to me, um, like for some sort of rapid response thing. I replied to him, ain't heard back, don't know. Now that could be whatever they were doing, maybe has passed and I was just too late. But um, I think the focus, well, just look at it this way. The people who you see in the Republican Party now, 5 or 6 years ago, you're talking about people that were on school boards, or maybe they were somebody, I'm going to say on Substack, but, someone like me that just had a small audience. And listen, when one of these donors throws 100 grand at you, it changes everything. Okay. My podcast is not in my kitchen. It maybe now I have a little studio, or, it makes a difference. And Democrats tend to throw big money in places that don't hit the grassroots, I think, in the same way. And it's just a kind of a corporate mentality. And this is, I don't know, call it what you want, analysis, whatever. I'm not holding my breath for anybody to come to Marlon Weems and say, hey, help us out. Cause, I, I'm probably too hard to get along with. But I just noticed the Charlie Kirks. I remember when that guy really was just a dude on Twitter shouting a bunch of crazy stuff. Look at him now. Candace Owen figured it out. In 2015, she was over here with us talking about Trump. Look where she is now. Of course, to me, I ain't selling my soul to the devil. I'm sorry. I can't. Okay. But okay, one last thing. Okay, so Catherine says Democrats are not attack dogs. We are from the yeah. I wrote the way I phrased it, Catherine. I think I said in a you know, um it wasn't exactly this, but I'll put it this way. Republicans are playing rugby and we are fencing. They are over here, throwing Molotov cocktails, and we're over here thumbing through Robert's Rules of Order, going, wait a minute, can y'all really? They're not supposed to do that. You see the difference? They're guerrilla warfare, and we're the redcoats in suits walking around, you know, waiting on somebody to tell us when to start shooting. It's just two different philosophies of how you approach politics, and we're just like outdated. We're out of fact. We're not doing it right. So yeah. Anyway, y'all, that is I was going to say 2 cents. I think y'all got a lot more than 2 cents today. Again, I apologize that our guest was unable to make it, but hopefully I made up for it. And if you have not already, please subscribe. And as I said earlier, through the end of the month, a paid subscription, which is quite helpful, um, is discounted by 20%. So, um, and I should also mention there's a link in my bio, and I also have tried to remind myself to put this where if you don't want to do a monthly thing, which I can understand a number of reasons why you might not, and just want to do some one time thing, I have a buy my coffee thing set up now. So anyway, John, I appreciate you, buddy, and I guess I'll see you next time, man. You're on it, man. You're always. I should have frequent flyer miles or something for you, man, because you always show up. Anyway, folks, I'm going to drop off here and I will see you on the other side. But be on the lookout because I've just got to do a little bit of, I don't have an editor. So I have to, throw this thing in Grammarly and catch all my mistakes. But otherwise, I should have something out probably within the hour. So thanks for showing up and I appreciate you. And I will see you on the other side. Take care.